Hi, this is Ms. Bahak. Welcome to the Look Good, Move Well podcast, where you can get fresh ideas for your training, nutrition, and lifestyle to immediately put to use. Listen in with Marcus Philly, the creator of Functional Bodybuilding, and myself.
Hi, I'm Marcus Philly. We're broadcasting from Revival Strength in San Rafael, California.
We'll be talking about avoiding burnout, keeping your passion alive for training, and fueling your body and mind so you can look good, move well now, and for years to come. Functional bodybuilding took off as an alternative to constant high-volume, high-intensity training often found in group classes. But you don't have to go at it alone to train in this style. Here's a look at how functional bodybuilding can work for groups to promote quality of movement, unilateral strength and balance, and support for aesthetics while keeping the fun of a community class. All right. Functional bodybuilding in groups.
Yep.
Seems to be a lot of people who are now interested in this and are reaching out and inquiring about it.
Yep.
How do you feel about that? Because I know up until now there's been a huge focus on it, being for individuals, and of course there's been a group impact through something like Awaken Training Series too. Yeah. But thinking about it in the context of gyms all over the world,
yeah,
that's a cool thought.
Yeah, no, it's total. I mean, it's if we think about what functional bodybuilding at its core is, it's not just like these kind of unique, sexy movements that have like, unilateral loading with bottoms up kettlebell. Like, it's much more foundational than that. It's like learning quality movement first, developing great motor patterns, implementing control points throughout people's training, developing unilateral strength and balance, and progressing people thoughtfully over, various lengths of time. 12-week training program, 6-month training program, a year-long approach to training, right? And I think in the world of group functional fitness, one of the trends that I have seen over the past many years is we've got people that started 8 years ago, 10 years ago, right? And they are progressing. So how do we make them, how do we give them more? How do we manage a population, an educated population of fitness consumers? We give them what have people done? They've given them more volume, more intensity, higher skill stuff, and there's been this modeling of group fitness programs after competitive level, fitness programs, which I just think is a mistake. I think it's absolutely a mistake. I think it's great to watch competitive fitness athletes do what they do, and also realize, like, on a day-to-day basis, the average fitness consumer and person who wants to have positive, healthy fitness, relationship doesn't need to do that type of training to have success. So that's really where I think the functional bodybuilding resonated with individuals from around the world. Oh, I want to do thoughtful training program that puts an emphasis back on the foundations, but still allows me to do some of the fun stuff that I've enjoyed in my, functional fitness program. It's taken simple stuff and made simple stuff kind of look sexy again, which I think is the ongoing mission of functional bodybuilding, is to make the simple sexy again. And for that reason, I think it's just a total natural progression for, people that are in charge. This is what gym owners are. This is their label. They are in charge, or in large part responsible for, the health and well-being of their fitness clients. So, that's a massive population out there where there's these coaches, owners that are in control of people's health and longevity. And they're starting to feel that there is a breakdown in the model of just going to smash people's faces with hard, intensive workouts all the time and hope for the best. No, they want more thoughtful training programs that can be given to their clients, where their clients aren't feeling like they just got, told they can't lift heavy weights. No, they're given fun, engaging training protocols that take them into new positions, get them exploring their body in new ways, get great strength training from it, decrease total stress, the list goes on. But they want that. And so it's like, let's provide an opportunity where we can start to see good functional bodybuilding programs written in such a way where they can apply to groups of people who are interested in the group fitness model. They're going to go there anyway. Let's give them something that they can really get, a good experience from.
Yeah. Well, what you were saying about what is kind of the next level of progression for a lot of people who've been doing this for several years, you're right. It often comes down to like, okay, I'm going to add more on top of what I'm already doing, and looking at some of, what competitors are doing and trying to grasp onto the same feel. When you said that you feel like that's kind of a bit of a mistake, what kind of stands out to you there? Is it the fact that like, the intensity and the volume of all that work is just not aligned with like the recovery practices that this audience or this population might kind of have? I'm sure there's several reasons, but that's one that stands out to me. Is like, okay, you're doing something that was designed for someone who can put in the time and energy into recovering and sleeping and all of that, and in turn it will be successful. But if you're not doing that and you're working 8 hours a day, you've got kids, you've got a lot of other stuff going on, I mean, it's a matter of time where that maybe has an opposite effect. Yeah,
completely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's like, for the audience, that the average, gym goer, the typical, group fitness participant, they just their lifestyle and their extracurricular activities don't align with, high intensity, high volume training, right? I mean, if you just go back 10 years and be like, okay, what was the workout that people did? They come in and it was 3 rounds for time of 500-meter row, 12 deadlifts, and 20 push-ups. That was it. And what'd you do? You warmed up for it. You worked on your mechanics for the deadlift. You maybe, did some skill work. You hit a hard workout, which took maybe 12 to 15 minutes, and then you were done. So it was like 10 to 15 minutes of intensity. Boom. Now it's like you come in, we got to do heavy back squats, then we're going to do an EMOM of wall balls and toes to bar, and then we're going to go do some these like sprint sets, and then we're going to finish with like a grinder.
Yeah.
So it's like right there, the average volume that people are doing is higher, and the movements and the loads have also gotten more complex and challenging. It's like, okay, we're going to give people more of these harder movements that we're seeing, right? Like snatching 10 years ago was like, nobody could do snatching. Well, now it's like, if you're not snatching, you're come on, you gotta be. It's like, so there's snatching in everything, right? Which is a sign that like we've come a long way as a fitness community, and it's great. I love seeing it, and at the same time, it's like, okay, let's take a step back and just make sure that we're not just trying to keep up with the top people in the sport, and we're listening to the needs of our clientele. And that's not to say I don't believe people should snatch. Like I love snatching. Yeah. So, what else? I mean, I also think that I just think that there's like big population out there that is not getting to push themselves as hard as gym owners think they are pushing them, because of the complexity and the difficulty of the training, right? Like I can think of somebody who comes in and the workout is these difficult movements, at loads that are prescribed, you know, for the competitive athlete in mind. And then by the time the person sets up for their workout, it's so scaled back, it's so not what the original intent was, that they're actually not getting that same dose response that they were the original prescription was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a disservice to the person who's on the lower end of the skill spectrum, or they're still new to fitness. That person's never going to progress, you know, to the point of where they're going to be able to do it RX by doing these really scaled down versions of high skill movements. You know, the progression is more through, you know, a functional bodybuilding or a simple training program that allows access to strength, allows access to skill and balance and coordination and all those things that should be present.
Well, you said, I mean, physically it's one thing, right? But then also there's a huge mental component of this that I think can become really dangerous if you continually have this idea that, you know, more is better, and you keep giving it to the community. At some point, if it's a tough switch that you might have to make at it, because at a certain point, like, you run out of time, you run out of idea. Like, how else can you start to, like, push these people in a way that's satisfying? And now there's a mindset that, oh, I need to be doing more. And anytime I see something that's less, you feel like, oh, I'm not getting enough. Even though physically that might not be the case, but there's a mental mind, like a mindset that develops from doing this for several months at a time or years at a time, and then you almost have to, like, rehab out of that, you know.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you're saying. There is so it's like there's this continuum where somebody gets into that, they're doing more and more and more and more, and they feel like if you were to take anything away from them, it's like their whole world's falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't make me do less. I got to do more. All right.
Yep.
That's a dangerous spot to be, because on the other side of that is total burnout.
All right.
That person then gets deeper into that, and they're now, let's say that point was 6 months. Now they're at a year, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm like hurting. I don't feel great anymore, you know? And that's a real thing that's happening for a lot of gyms out there. They're having clients who are just like, God, I'm just sort of kind of tired of racing against the clock all the time. Like, I just can't get myself up for that anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's, you know, that's no fault of anybody's. It's just physiology. It's just, you know, what happens to the hormone system over time of repeatedly coming in and pushing that intensity. And so, you know, enter a, you know, functional bodybuilding program for a group. You know, what we aim to do, and this isn't necessarily, like, you know, what we've thought up ourselves, but it's basically just to say we're going to periodize this in a way which gives, you know, clients a little bit of that access to that intensity periodically, but for you know, on a more global scale, we're going to try and keep things toned down a little bit. And toned down intensity doesn't mean people don't work hard. It just means that they don't get into that red zone that often. It means that instead they're putting in 40 minutes of really quality work where they're getting good strength, good balance, some conditioning, you know, and it's like an opportunity to, like, dial back on that, like, high rev that they get on the other days of the week where, you know, they're doing these, you know, higher intensity workouts. And so it really helps to strike a balance, I think. And whereas, you know, you can be too far to this end of the spectrum, you can be too far to this end of the spectrum, like, we're way too intensity focused, or we're way too slow and simple, and, you know, like, we can meet in the middle, and I think that's what we're trying to offer.
Yeah. I'm thinking of, like, an individual client that I talked to recently, and she came from a background of, you know, for 6 years or so doing group classes and doing a lot of intensity, and she was very upfront in the beginning of how it made her nervous. Like, that was one of her areas that she was like, you know, it's going to take me some time to adjust to this new style of training and just this new mindset. So knowing that, it was like, okay, we kept in communication about it, and she went through what you would think of as like a, you know, classic FBB styled program that still gives her those opportunities to push on a weekly basis, but it's just a little more thought out and it's not happening as frequent. So testing week came around, and the reason I bring her up is because her the flow of her workouts were similar to what you would think you need in a class. Like, okay, I have about an hour, warm up, get into it. And when testing came around, she crushes all of her testing. Like, all her lifts went up. She feels like the biggest thing was like she felt a difference in terms of the control and the awareness that she had on how to attack different lifts. And she was like, all right, I'm a believer now. Like, this whole time, it was a mental thing that kept coming back up, and it just took took some testing and took some exposure to doing it for her to start to kind of buy into it.
Yeah. Well, that's such a common thing that happens with people, is the like attachment to a certain way that they used to do things. It's like, oh, I'm afraid to get into something new. And being somebody who used to own a group fitness facility and like write workouts, and I went from like the old school high intensity, beat yourself down every day, to trying to incorporate some of these principles over time. It's like people are reluctant to change, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's important to know like how to, one, prescribe it effectively, right? You know, and I see a lot of people out there that are utilizing FBB principles with their groups, and you know, I imagine there's some out there that have had great success and some that have kind of flopped. Like, they wrote something and the class was like, what are we doing? Like, why are we doing this? Like, why aren't we doing, you know, our EMOM of kettlebell swings and burpees? Come on,
right.
You know? And so, you know, that's where our experience and having written so many of these designs helps and can help other, you know, gyms that are out there and gym owners and coaches. Like, rely on us to help you design something that we know is tried and true, you can stand behind. You know, you can use us as a tool to kind of get your group on board. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, like, don't change it all in one fell swoop. You know what I mean? Like, we've taken on groups where we write their entire group programming from like start to finish every week for months and months on end. Takes that, you know, out of the hands of the owner so that they can work on other things. You know, there are custom FBB design, you know, clients. And what do we talk about when we first start with some of those gyms? You know, you and I have had this discussion. It's like, okay, they're used to doing like this type of workout. If you switch all 7 over to this type of workout in like 1 week, they're going to be like, what the heck? You know, the members are going to kind of freak out. Right. So we make smooth transitions, right? We know how to balance a little bit of FBB with a little bit of intensity, with a little bit of what they're used to. So I think that's, you know, that's an important thing to note as people are learning and thinking about adopting this, because your client that you mentioned is the norm. It's somebody who's going to have a little apprehension. The client that's not going to have any apprehension is the one that's just like, what we've been doing lately is crushing me and it's not working. So I'm ready to try anything else. Right. And that's just, and then there's plenty of, you know, gym owners that have a sense that if I keep doing what I'm doing, I think I'm going to burn my people out over time.
Yeah.
And you already have that inclination. It's like, yeah, it's probably time to start implementing some new design principles into your groups so that you can retain clients for longer. They can have more success for longer. They feel, you know, invigorated and built up by your training, not burnt out by your training. So I think that those are definitely things to consider if you're, you know, entertaining the notion of, I'm going to bring some of this to my group.
Yeah, and the other end of this is like there's an element of customization to it, the way that we work with individual clients, where every gym is so different in terms of what they're, I mean, there are some similarities and crossover, but there's differences in terms of equipment, the flow of how they've been running things. And so, yeah, meeting somewhere in the middle and coming up with something that's like, okay, this is what we know we want to give you, but this is what you're used to, so let's figure out something in the middle that's going to be fun, safe, effective. But I also think like there's this, what I've noticed is there are more gym owners who are thinking of like look good, move well type of clients. So whether that is in their existing community of people who are like, well, I've been here for 6 years and I don't look any different, or I mean, we know there's a very abundant market out there of people who want to look good and move well and may not have embarked on the journey with you because it just looks too intimidating and they don't feel ready to do it. So I think there's an opportunity for just capitalizing on a new market in your community, and then, you know, delivering aesthetic results for some people if that's something that they're shooting for, which can be really powerful in retaining and then gaining referrals and things like that too. Yeah,
completely. I think you hit something that a lot of gym owners and coaches are starting to see. There's like, okay, there's a population out there that I want to be working with, but because they only see, you know, my clients doing super high intensity stuff, they're a little bit apprehensive about coming in. So you offer something different. You offer something that's more controlled, has efficacy, you know, can deliver on, you know, the aesthetic promise. It could open up some new doors. And then also for the population that they're already serving, and we've just discussed this, it's like the clients and the members that are like kind of on the fence, like, man, this has been great. It was great in year 1. It was good in year 2, but I'm in year 3 now, and I'm kind of like, I'm kind of hurt. I'm kind of getting beat up. I don't have that same vigor and energy like I had the first year. You know, these training principles, if implemented over time, could potentially save those folks and make them get the balance that they're looking for. And it doesn't have to be like an all 100% thing. You know,
right?
We definitely have clients of ours that are totally aligned with what we do, and they hire us for like the full customized program design for their groups. And even within that, there's variation from person to person, from gym to gym. We really customize it for each population so that they're getting what they need. Their members and the coaches have feedback. But you know, we're going to be sort of offering an opportunity for, you know, gyms out there to contact us and get involved in a 3 time a week, you know, FBB group model where they can utilize our programming as part of what they offer amongst all the other services that they have. And I think that that's sort of a, you know, that would be a great way for certain gyms that are out there and groups to experience some of it, get a little bit of a balance of what they're seeing in the general program design that they have already implemented at their gym. And, you know, at this point we have, you know, countless examples of where this is working. And I think that all those serve as a, you know, just kind of proof that this is something that will positively impact, you know, groups from around the world, and it already is.
Yeah. It's exciting stuff. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave people with around this?
Yeah, I mean, I just, you know, I gave a talk at NC Fit maybe a month ago, a little over a month ago, and I spoke to a group of 50 coaches. They have this amazing coaching staff that work, you know, at 5-6 different locations, and I sat around with a bunch of professionals that are coaching group fitness on a daily basis, and we just went through the list of like, well, what are we all seeing? Well, we're seeing people, you know, having to scale things back in a way that doesn't even get at the same dose that we were aiming for. We're seeing the frustration of not having enough time to teach people how to do complex motor patterns. We're seeing clients that, you know, would rather just move for the whole time than be coached, you know, on how to develop skills, right? It's frustrating for coaches. So, you know, there were a number of other points that I made, and many of them we all came back to, well, if we had like movement tools that everybody in the group could have access to, that would challenge people because they're different. They're not the traditional movements that are seen in these settings, right? They're not all barbell. There's kettlebells and dumbbells, right? We're doing unilateral work. We're doing single leg stuff. We're doing unilateral loading. We're changing up parameters. We're applying some tempo into the strength work to add control points in so that coaches could actually coach more. If we start to do all these things, it could really answer a lot of the problems that we see and not necessarily take away all the fun for people, right? We've had plenty of feedback from people where it's like they're having fun and they're enjoying the training. It gives them excitement around what they're doing each day in addition to results, right? Because like if someone's getting results but they're not having fun doing it, they're not going to last. You know what I mean? Like they might, and it'll be exciting for the results, but they still want to have some fun and enjoy themselves in this community environment. So I think we really can tackle both in this. And the final thought to leave listeners with is, if you are in that environment of like you're a group fitness participant and there's something that's just not gelling for you there, then reach out to us and look into some of our options that we have to maybe sign up for a training program that you can guide yourself through. But if you're in the coaching spectrum or you're in the ownership, gym ownership, and you start to, and you, in any of the things that we've said, like resonate with you about, oh, I'm noticing this within my group, then just, shoot us an email at lookgood@functionalbodybuilding.net and inquire about what the options are for you, in group training.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for listening, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And head over to speakpipe.com/look
good, move well.
Look good, move well. And leave us a topic, a question. We're getting some good ones from you guys. So thanks.
Thank you. She's locked in.
She's totally locked in.